how India's action epic RRR could bring the country's first Oscar nom in 21 years, which I think is fucking shocking, by the way. Pardon my French, but 21 years.
It took Korea a long time to get a nomination again as well, to be fair, and they won 4 in one night. Yeah,
so you never know, John. But I'll just read this little bit. It's just above the image, the flag image. The skyrocketing success of RRR has been the undercover Cinderella story of the year. That's a great description. A global smash with huge box office receipts. The film found a pathway to the American cultural zeitgeist, with consumers discovering it on Netflix. It was distributed theatrically by Variance Films in the US, and current trend by the Academy to embrace non-English language features in the last few years offers an alternative pathway to awards recognition if India decides to look elsewhere. But why would they? That is the question. Why would they? John, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong here in terms of the country nominating films. Yeah. But films, now I read this, I might be misreading it, but from the guys over at Our Stupid Reactions were talking about this on their Twitter feed in terms of films can independently nominate themselves. I don't know how far along they get in the process. I might be wrong, maybe somebody can correct us on this. But
I mean, I know in the US it's the studios. The studios actually nominate their movies. They put the movies, the front runners, who they wish to be eligible for nominations. Yeah. They're nominees, if you like. They put them forward, and then they obviously plot and plan a campaign to woo, wine and dine various powerful people within the Academy and in Hollywood to get buzz around the movie. That's how I've always seen it happening in the US and Western spheres. It's the actual studios themselves, Warner Brothers, Disney, fucking MGM, and it was a studio. Also Netflix have had oodles of cash, now they're struggling. It was them that pushed their movies forward. They selected, because we also had a whole fucking hullabaloo over Disney pushing forward. I think it was Black Panther one year or something over. I
think it was a hullabaloo last year with the American/Korean film, John. The one we
Minari, yeah, because it was it was an American made. It was an American movie, and they classed it as a Korean foreign language, and it was obviously fucking English speaking.
John, interestingly, only 3 Indian films in total have been nominated for the award, and I'm going to just say who they are. Mother India from 1957, Salam Bombay from 1988, and Lagan from 2001, which is obviously the last nomination.
I don't know where you are there, Stephen. I'm not going to lie.
It's very... I can't remember where it was, John.
It doesn't matter, we'll go back to this.
Do you know something?
Get your shots up.
We started our Indian movie cinema experience, or journey, I'll call it, 2 years ago, and I think it was maybe last year, 2021, when Master came out. We thought this was an amazing film. We've seen obviously films previous to that, but that was probably the standout one at that point in terms of a great storyline, great acting, great score, cinematography was fantastic. But there's something about, and I don't want to be sacrilege here, there's something about RRR that takes it to another level again, in my opinion anyway, that comes under all the different categories of cinematography, choreography, soundtrack, score, you name it. This film's got it all. And I think for this not to even be mentioned at the Academy Awards, it would be absolutely a scandal. And I think it would be even more of a scandal if this film wasn't put forward in any fashion.
It has to be put forward.
From the studios for an Academy Award. But the other question then, do you think it has got that quality to win one of the categories in the Academy Award if it is put forward?
Well, I mean, Stephen, if you're putting it forward in the foreign language category, then I think it absolutely has a chance of nicking in and winning. It should definitely be nominated as one of the top foreign language movies of this calendar year. It is without a shadow of a doubt one of the best, but we do know in our experience with the Academy, with the Oscars, watching them over the years, there is a definite bias towards more drama-driven human condition stories.
Yeah, regardless of where they come from.
Regardless of where they come from, we've seen huge, brilliant Marvel epics getting snubbed. We've seen Chris Nolan's Tenet getting snubbed in technical categories. Yeah, Ludwig Göransson's incredible score
John,
doesn't even get a nomination
from you. Yeah,
fucking disgusted me.
Yeah.
They gave it to Encanto. What? Can we been Goddison?
Yeah.
Come on, Ludwig's one of the best composers on the planet just now. That score was stunning. They snubbed Christopher Nolan because it wasn't perhaps his traditional kind of movie. It wasn't a Memento or something like that.
I think as well, John, he probably rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way with the
pandemic.
The self-proclaimed saviour of cinema.
Well, I mean, he tried, to be fair. He tried to save the theatres whilst the studios just tried to save themselves.
Yeah.
So you've got to, tip your hat to Chris. He did champion the art of going to the theatre and watching a movie. Sadly, the studios completely fucking stabbed him in the back, so he was never going to win. And then there was this sort of perverse thing over in the States where the whole political tribalism kicked in again, and it was the Democrats v the Republicans, and because the Democrats had a hard-on for wearing masks and the Republicans had a hard-on for not wearing masks, and all that crap came out, that meant that he was caught in the crossfire. And they were both not wanting to go to the theatres and see it just because they were fighting each other on social media. Whereas I just went and watched it because I knew it was going to be a brilliant movie. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan, and I wasn't disappointed. I went and seen the movie in the theatre, but 1 man, 2 man, 3 people, 4 people can't make a movie millions of dollars, billions of dollars at the box office. But what I'm getting at, Stephen, is if they can snub Chris Nolan, then they will most definitely snub RRR, RRR in the main categories. I think where it's probably got its best chance is foreign language movie. Certainly some of the technical stuff, I don't see how it likes the score. Original songs. The song at the end, I forget the name of the song, where they're celebrating huge sort of political freedom fighting figures over the course of India's history, and they're getting right involved. The flags and stuff. I don't see how that can't be up for a shout with best original song, best song from a movie in that calendar year. It's one of the best songs. All the technical stuff, costume design, CGI, cinematography. But again, man, it's just you're really relying on a small insular group of people who want to get their bellies rubbed, their chins scratched, their heads tapped, brown envelopes sent under tables to them.
They also want
by the elite.
4 or 5 minutes fast forwarded from the credits.
They do. We'll get into that just now. I mean, there's a certain I'll just come out and name him, John Campea. He's a movie critique. He does movie news. He speaks about movies. We both like him. He's a brilliant channel. Huge inspiration to us. Guy can speak for hours on end. Get huge fucking admiration for what he does. The whole setup over there. He's new fucking home theatre. Lucky bastard that he is. Cost him thousands. But he did sit down to watch RRR. I'm imagining Robert Meyer Burnett, who's on this channel with him, is a good friend of his who's watched RRR and really enjoyed it. And I've watched the shows over the last couple of weeks, and he's been nipping away. You should watch RRR. Sure, he had a word in his ear, but he sat down, moaned within 4 minutes that there was too much credits. Someone rightly said in the comments, Stephen, if you're going to write off a movie based on 3-4 minutes of credits, you're writing off some of the greatest movies in the history of fucking cinema. Because they all had credits at the start of the movies back in the day. It was actually George Lucas and guys like that. The rebels of Spielberg and Lucas and guys like that in the 70s and 80s, they changed it. So there's 20, 30, 40 years of cinema, brilliant cinema, that's got 3-4 minutes of credits at the start of the fucking movie.
I think he had a problem as well. He had an issue with a sequence. It was the
Ram Charan.
Taking on the 1,000
Ramaraju. Taking on all the men. Going to get the guy who smashed the.
Which I was very surprised about the way that he went about that tweet. In terms of
he tapped out.
Almost like he couldn't suspend. Disbelief in a way. But in a way, I'm like, John, you're a big Marvel fan, and you watch all these superhero movies.
You watch Morbius.
And you can suspend that belief for 2-3 hours at a time, but for the first 15 minutes of this film, you had problems with it. I just couldn't understand that.
I mean, that's part of the movie, Stephen. That's part of the character. You have to quickly sit in and realise this is what SS is doing.
I think if John Campea is sat down and watched Bahubali chapters 1 and 2, at the beginning and the conclusion, he would have maybe understood it a bit more, conditioned himself a bit more. But again, you've got to give those films a chance as well, John. I always remember sitting down for those first 15-20 minutes of Bahubali, the beginning, and thought,
Yeah, it was a culture shock. It was.
But the more I watched it, the more my brain conditioned itself into
the visuals, the story, the characters,
putting realism to a side, and just accepting what I was seeing on screen and take myself away from the real world for a couple of hours.
That's what it's all about.
And I had such a great experience of those films. So going into RRR, we were already conditioned for that here. Talking from a Western perspective.
And obviously watching loads of indie movies over the last year. We've watched like Telepathy doing his stuff.
Yeah.
And they are they're super heroic figures, because you need to remember it's India still taps in to this culture, this ideology when it comes to film and going to watch a movie that we've probably lost in the last 30-40 years.
I think so, because they don't make die-hard films anymore.
Yeah, but it's an experience, even going to the theatre and watching it. It's escapism. You're forgetting about all of the nonsense in life for 2-3 hours. They go out and they celebrate it. We've lost that. It's more accessible probably to larger parts of Western culture. These big bombastic hits, they come 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, maybe in first 2-3 months of a year. So we became more cynical, getting back to the Goonies thing, pampered,
very pampered,
and we've lost that zest, that celebration for cinema. Whereas in India, they've still very much got it. It's in the blood of the DNA of the filmmakers, certainly from Telugu regions.
We get it every now and again, John. We do, in terms of that sort of. The build up, Endgame, No Way Home, Infinity. We do get them occasionally. The Force Awakens, that kind of thing. That anticipation and being able to just suspend the real world for a couple of hours and just absorb what we're seeing on the screen. But you're absolutely right. There's so much of it going through now. The cinema, we're getting maybe about 3 or 4 Marvel films per year, that kind of thing. DC's the same. There is something lost, you're absolutely right. But there's something about Indian culture that embrace these films, and you're absolutely right about the action ones. They're not any different, and you talk about Telepathy VJ films, they're not any different to the Bruce Willis films of the 80s and 90s, and Jean-Claude Van Damme films of the same period. We don't do that now. We do it to an extent with the likes of the Expendables, but there's a certain degree of...
And even then, Steve,
irony in those films now about taking the piss out of the old 80s action films, We just don't seem to have that formula anymore.
And even then, the Telepathy movies, the directors and him, he also works creatively.
Yeah.
They're combining 3-4 genres in the one movie. It's not just action hero stuff. They're combining romantic stuff. There's song and dance. There's
social
real drama moments. There's social messaging in there. So they handle those movies in a different way. And again, man, you mentioned that. I was surprised myself. I says to you, actually replied to you when you sent me the actual tweet screenshot.
I thought it was a wind-up at first when I saw it. I thought
when he says he's tapped out after 15 minutes, I'm like, he's been a complete hypocrite there. Because this guy loves Marvel. And look, I've got the Shield behind me. We've got Mjolnir. I love Captain America. I love Thor. I love that universe. But it's no different. What Ramaraju does, running through that crowd, taking on 4, 5, 6, 7, 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Single-handedly, it's no different to Thor, wiping out fucking loads of elves in the dark.
The Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier. Exactly. Captain America wiping out the elevator full of 15 people. It's no different. It's suspension of disbelief. It's super heroic. It's just hypocrisy. But again, I think Steve, we spoke about it, man. We spoke about it the other night when we were talking about Rajamouli, the success, how there's more bandwagoners from the West jumping in. I says it can be a good thing and a bad thing. You're seeing the slightly bad side of it here as well with that attitude.
Yeah.
There is a degree of arrogance, hubris towards anything that's not Hollywood. Or maybe an artsy French fucking movie.
But the positives are we're talking about Academy Awards season.
We're talking about this film. And this is Variety, Stephen.
Yeah, exactly.
This is fucking one of the greatest publications when it comes to film.
Yeah.
In the movie industry, Variety are hugely respected. And you've got this guy talking about RRR. And he's saying this could feasibly be the first nomination at the Academy Awards for an Indian movie in over 2 decades. Yeah. So I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, definitely.
There is in the main people in the West who have watched this movie have bought into what Rajamouli did. They've bought into the spirit of the movie, the way it was made, the way it was acted, the enthusiasm, the exuberance. They've bought well into it, and it has created a buzz over here.
Definitely
You've got people who actually know what they're talking about, filmmakers, really enjoying it. he's been invited over to Toronto. Incidentally, I love that fucking clip thumbnail you put out. That's one of the best thumbnails on this channel, Stephen.
What one's that?
The one you done the thumbnail for the Toronto film. That was brilliant. I'll tell you, it was that good, man. I actually thought I had to double take the two characters, Beam and Ramaraju, in the corner. I actually thought they were there. It was people in the actual image.
Yeah.
So that was a brilliant fucking thumbnail you put together. But there's a buzz.
Yeah.
You've got them getting invited to Toronto. You've got these people speaking. I hope it does get nominated. I hope it brings more attention to this guy, to Indian cinema, the real melting pot of different genres, brilliant actors, stuff that's going on over there, and we get more success stories like this globally. Because we know of it, but there's a lot of people over here that don't know of it.
Yeah.
I try to educate people one at a time. I try to say to them,
That's
look,
all it takes, yeah.
you've seen me at the football, Stephen.
Yeah.
Speaking to one of the resident
Scobies, yeah.
Scobie, speaking to one of the resident film and TV lovers, fanatics, and I try to get him to watch all these Indian TV shows. I've spoke to him about Family Man, I've spoke to him about Mirzapur, spoke to him about Sacred Games. Fantastic fucking stuff that they're doing. We need more people watching it. There is a degree of ignorance though, towards Indian stuff that's not prevalent towards Korean stuff.
John,
even
it's their loss at the end of the day.
It is their loss. But thankfully, in the main, creating a buzz, could get nominated. Hope it does. That's going to round it up though.